I didn't have a clue how long I was out. It was dark and I hurt. God damn it, I hurt. It felt as though every square inch of my body had been hit with a baseball bat a million times over. Concentrate, I kept telling myself, trying to clear my head. Shit, it was hard. It took a minute before I finally realized I was still strapped into my car seat, but no longer sitting upright. I was at a weird angle and for a second couldn't remember where I was. I could barely focus through the pain. I forced my eyes closed, telling myself to concentrate one more time as I took a couple of deep breaths, trying to clear my mind and figure this out. For some reason, I thought back to the time I had been mountain bike riding and took a huge spill. I lay there in a crumbled heap on the ground with my bike on top of me. One by one, I tried my limbs and thanked God when I knew they all worked. This time I wasn't so lucky. Looking back, it was a stupid argument that never should have taken place. I know I let my anger get away from me, but hell, what was my wife thinking? That Holly is a shopaholic goes without question. Mostly when it comes to shoes, but damn it, we were barely squeaking by each month. Between rent, food, gas, car payments and car insurance and school loans, we were making it just barely. We had maybe only a couple hundred left over to pay for all the extras that crept up every month. That night, she came home late from work with a shopping bag from her favorite department store. Smiling from ear to ear, she threw her jacket onto the ottoman in the living room and flopped down on the couch. "You've just got to see what I bought today," Holly announced. Beaming, she pulled out a large box from the bag. They were 50% off on their final winter clearance sale. "Can you believe it?" She then proudly produced what was in the box, showing me a pair of tall, dark brown leather boots. She slipped them on her feet, zipped them up, and just sat there with her legs outstretched, admiring her new purchase. "Don't you just love them?" I cringed before asking the first thing that popped into my brain. "Holly, I hate to ask, but what did they cost?" "Only $80. And can you believe how lucky I was to find them in my size?" "But don't you already own a pair that are almost identical?" I asked, trying my best not to sound confrontational, even though I wasn't at all happy. "Steve, those are a light chocolate and these are dark brown. Also, the heels are totally different." Like that was supposed to mean something to me? "Han, we've got auto insurance coming due at the end of this month. And with everything else, we're not supposed to be spending any extra money right now." I was being nice, simply trying to get my point across without setting her off. Well, I was trying to anyway. "Steve, they were half off. I saved us a ton of money." "Holly, if you hadn't bought them in the first place, we would have saved the $80 you spent." I thought it was a logical statement, but Holly sat there looking at me like I'd sprouted another head or had started talking in tongues. "You want me to take them back? Seriously? Don't you remember we talked about cutting back on all our extra spending? Besides, you've got a closet full of shoes and boots already. Why do you need another pair?" I knew as soon as it was out of my mouth it was a silly question. It was never a question of need, it was more a question of want, when it came to a lot of Holly's purchases. "Fine. I'll take them back tomorrow," she said through gritted teeth, with the look in her eyes that told me I could forget about any closeness or love making tonight and probably all weekend. "Maybe in another month when we have a few extra bucks," I started to say but was quickly interrupted. Holly retaliated, not at all happy with my suggestion. "Steve, they're on sale now, not a month from now." She took them off, tossing them back into the box from which she'd lovingly taken them. "Just wait until the next time you want something. Two can play this game, Steven." "Steven? Shit, Holly never called me Steven unless she was absolutely pissed at me. Holly and I have been married for just under 2 years and really were happy. That is unless you counted our arguing about money. She had lived at home with her parents until we officially tied the knot. Her family was pretty well-to-do, and whatever Daddy's little girl wanted, Daddy's little girl got. That, however, wasn't cutting it with me anymore. When we got married, I didn't owe a red cent to anyone and wanted to keep it that way. Much to my dismay, it didn't last. I somehow always got outvoted 1-0 over and over again when it came to money. The first year I know I gave in to her way too much, but isn't that what new husbands do? A newer car, tons of clothes, and an apartment just off the downtown were only a few of the things she talked me into. Well, truth be known, it really wasn't her talking that convinced me, if you know what I mean. Dinner that evening was hot, Well, the temperature in the kitchen was just above freezing. Holly was going to make me pay. I was determined to be strong this time around. The buck stops here. Tonight, I kept repeating that mantra over and over in my head, trying to convince myself I was right, and I was. Our dinner conversation consisted of 3-word answers to all the questions I posed to her about her day and what she wanted to do this weekend. After her last, "I don't know," and "I don't care," I took what was left of my dinner and flushed it down the garbage disposal. Grabbing a beer, I headed to the den, alone. The den was really our spare bedroom that held the rest of Holly's clothes and our desktop computer. My self-induced solitude lasted for all of 10 minutes. "I really want those boots," I heard her say from the doorway behind me. "I'll get my dad to pay for the boots, but I'm not taking them back. They're too good a deal." I guess I kind of lost it at that statement. "Holly, why don't you just go down to the blood bank and sell some of your blood to pay for your fix? Or better yet, the street in front of our apartment building is pretty damn busy. What, with a figure like yours, I know you could make that $80 in no time at all." I was being ugly and sarcastic as hell, trying to make my point. She did not need those boots. "You're an ass. Do you know that? I don't know why I even married you." Okay, that one hurt. We'd gone from sarcasm and being angry with one another to cuts that were downright hurtful, all because of a pair of stupid boots. Well, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. I can rectify that decision right now. I slipped on my sandals, grabbed my jacket, and reached for my keys on the rack by the front door. "If you're going out, make yourself useful. Take my car and put some gas in it." The look I gave her wasn't priceless, and I think at that moment she realized she'd pushed me too far. I heard the word, "Steve," at the same time that I slammed the apartment door and went storming down the hall to the parking lot. No wallet or watch, but unbeknownst and lucky for me, my cell phone was still in my jacket pocket. With my 10-year-old Chevy, I did my best to burn rubber out of the parking lot. Only that wasn't happening. Not with a toned-down, automatic, 6-cylinder engine. The only thing I could do was to swear out loud and smack the steering wheel with my hands. I must have said the word bitch 100 times over. I vowed to drive all the way down to Miami, get a job on a cruise ship, and leave her ungrateful, pathetic ass. It was then I realized I was going nowhere. Looking down at my gas gauge, it was registering a little over 1/8 of a tank. Hell, at best that would only get me about 100 miles, even if I was careful. I yelled out bitch one more time. I looked through all my pockets, hoping to find at least a couple of bucks. I found just 65 cents in my ashtray. I had no other choice but to turn around. I had driven about 18 miles, and if I had driven back on the same roads I'd come by, I probably wouldn't be in the mess I currently find myself. But I was in no hurry to get back to the apartment, only to be probably frozen out of my own damn bedroom. So I took a left onto the scenic back roads that wind around the 2 lakes a couple of miles behind our apartment building. It was a beautiful drive during the day, and at night there was hardly any traffic. Looking back, the guy must have been either drunk or had a major death wish. From over a quarter of a mile away, I could see his high beams coming over the crest of the bridge, driving down towards me. That's when I took my foot off the gas to slow down. The son of a bitch was driving in the center of the road. I hit my high beams, honked my horn, and went from the right to the left side of the road and back to the right twice. There were no intersecting side streets or even a shoulder to pull off onto, only a deep gully on both sides of the road. I was fucked. As he came down off the bridge, for a split second, I thought I was okay since he had finally moved into his own lane. But it didn't last. About 200 yards before the bridge, I moved to the far right side of my lane and hit the gas to put some distance between us. I actually thought I was in the clear until he swerved to the left a split second later, catching the front left fender of my car. Heading off the right side of the road, over the ditch, towards who knows what, the last thing I remember seeing was the bridge's metal guardrail to my left as I found myself airborne. I know my car rolled at least a couple of times before I was knocked out. How far down that ravine I'd traveled, I hadn't a clue. All I knew when I finally woke up was I was in a world of deep shit. I did remember I left the apartment somewhere around 8:15, just before darkness had set in. Now, I wasn't sure how long I was out or what time it was, only it was now dark outside and around me were just shadows. I'm no doctor, but I didn't need one to realize I was pretty messed up. My left shoulder was either dislocated or broken, It throbbed like crazy, but I found I could still move my fingers somewhat. That my right arm was broken was without question. From the bulge in my sleeve, I could tell there was a bone protruding about 3 inches through my forearm. The sleeve was a dark red mess, and I could only hope the bleeding had stopped. Nonetheless, it was just hanging there lifeless, though not painless. With my jacket shoulders, I was wiping what I thought was sweat dripping into my eyes. I later discovered it was blood running down my face from a number of head wounds. My legs were sore, but I could at least wiggle my toes. Thank God. Something was intact. The seatbelt was so tight against my stomach it made me want to puke. I fought the urge. I had to get my head straight and figure this out. Then it dawned on me. The damn airbag hadn't gone off, because if it had, maybe I wouldn't be this messed up. Well, it was too late to worry about why at this point. Someone was going to get sued big time. For hours I hung there held in by that fucking seatbelt, sweating from the intense pain and waiting for the first glimpse of daylight to see where in the hell I was. I went over last night's argument and 100 other things in my brain, trying anything to distract me from the pain I was in. Sometime over the next couple of hours I must have passed out. I sure as hell didn't fall asleep, considering the uncomfortable position my body was in. And the pain? Well, it came roaring back as soon as I woke up. When I opened my eyes this time, it was light and I could see. Even then, only the most obvious of my questions were answered. The front windshield was shattered, both side windows were gone, and the roof of my car was about 1.5 feet lower than it should be. Even if I wasn't hurt, it would have been a tight squeeze just to get out any of the windows. The car was resting on its right side, and to my horror, I could see water seeping in just below me. The seat belt and shoulder harness were still holding me firmly in my bucket seat, but the lap belt was digging further into my waist because all my weight was pressing against it. My situation caused me to feel hideously confined and impotent. I would not allow myself be helpless. I knew I had to do something to alleviate this before I would go into panic mode. I pushed my feet up against the dashboard to adjust my weight. The pain seared through me, but it helped some, just not enough to make a big difference. To relieve a little pressure on the seatbelt, I poked my left knee into the steering wheel. At least now all my weight wasn't resting on that thin belt. My right arm was totally useless. It was broken in at least one place. I could move it slightly, though that brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't leave it just hanging there. So with all my inner strength, I pulled it up using my feeble left hand to help. Took me a while, but I finally pulled my arm up and lay it across my lap. Then, with one more push with my right foot, despite the searing pain, I managed to drive my upper body deeper into my seat. I got just enough slack in the shoulder strap to move my right forearm under it. My arm still hurt like a son of a bitch, but at least it was more comfortable being closer to my body and immobilized. Then something wonderful happened. My cell phone started to ring. The only problem was that it was in my right jacket pocket and there was no way in hell I could reach it, certainly not with my right hand. After 5 rings, it went to voicemail. It had to be Holly checking up on me. Damn, I needed to get that phone, but I had other more immediate needs. For hours I heard cars on the road and bridge above me. Foolishly, I thought someone was bound to see my car from the road and come to my rescue. No one came. What I didn't know but found out later was my car wasn't visible from the road unless you were stopped on the top of the bridge and looking straight down. My mouth was drying out. I really could have used some water. Looking down at the pool of dirty water that was probably 1 foot deep by now, I thought no way in hell could I ever drink that piss-looking liquid. Damn, wouldn't you know it, the second my brain heard piss, my body decided it was time to empty my bladder. Like there was a bathroom anywhere around here. After 24 hours without a toilet, and try as I may, there was no way in hell I could hold it in any longer. I hadn't peed my pants since I was 2, but it did feel good to empty my bladder. The seatbelt didn't feel as snug afterwards. I didn't let myself to think about the hot, smelly urine spreading down my legs. Hell, it was only a matter of time before someone noticed me and pulled my ass out of here. To keep myself sane, I clung to that thought throughout the whole day. Though I was having a hard time getting a deep breath, I still screamed for help when I had the energy. The water had stopped coming in, but the black flies were giving me fits as they buzzed around my head, taking a chunk out of me every once in a while. When it started getting darker, my optimism started to wane. I was calling out every couple of minutes, but with my mouth drying out, and now being unable to get a deep breath, I found it more and more difficult to yell for help. Why hadn't anyone found me yet? I wasn't at work and hadn't even called in. Surely someone would have called our apartment to check on me. And hell, where was Holly? Where in the hell is he? Holly asked herself after calling and texting Steve's phone a dozen times over the past 4 hours. He doesn't have to talk to me, but the least he could do is answer my texts, she thought, sending Steve yet another. She figured he'd spent the night at one of his buddies. Besides, she was feeling a little bad about the argument of the previous night. I know just how I'll make it up to him tonight, she snickered to herself, looking at her watch. I'll beat his ass home, and when he walks through that door, I'll jump his bones. She was smiling again. There was nothing to forgive, it was just a stupid misunderstanding. And hell, the boots aren't worth the trouble they caused. It was almost dark again. Now I wasn't just worried, I was also scared shitless. My right arm was numb, and I held my left as close to my body as possible. I continually moved my legs, trying to keep them from falling asleep on me. I'd heard my phone ringing off the wall. My incoming text alert also kept sounding off. My powerlessness to respond or answer was overwhelming, but there was no way for me to get the phone with a useless right hand and a left arm and shoulder that probably wouldn't move more than a couple of inches without making me want to cry again. All I had to hang on to was hope. They're probably out in force looking for me this very minute. I thought, or more so prayed at this point. Then it started again. I knew I had at least a few cuts on my head. I'd wiped my face on my shoulder the previous night and in the light of day could see the blood on my jacket. Thankfully, the cuts had stopped bleeding and were not very painful, so I knew they were most likely superficial. I had dealt with the constant dripping on and off last night. Not sure if it was sweat or blood, but it was the going in and out of consciousness that had helped the most. Tonight, though, the mosquitoes and every other flying critter looked on me as fresh meat. My conglomeration of body odors, sweat, blood, and urine was their calling card, and the response was fierce. They came out in force at dusk and were unmerciful. With one useless hand and the other almost as bad. All I could do was rub my face on my shoulders to ward them off. I was at their mercy. I could feel them feasting on my head and neck, and there was nothing I could do about it. However, when I shook my head side to side to try and dislodge them, my shoulder and arms caused me excruciating pain. I didn't think the night would ever end. I prayed I'd pass out again to give me some blessed relief from their relentless orgy. I am not sure how long I lasted, and I may have passed out. All I knew for sure is by morning I could tell my face was very swollen and itching like hell. Looking down, I would have given anything to have a mouthful of that dirty water that was just out of reach. There was no moisture left in my mouth, and besides hurting, my body had started to shut down. The last thing I'd eaten was that half-eaten dinner 2 nights ago. Now I wished that I'd eaten it all and grabbed a bottle of cold water from the refrigerator on my way out. Who was I kidding? I wished I'd never left. My right arm had stopped bleeding. I saw my jacket sleeve was one dark red mess. Too much blood loss could be the reason I felt the way I did. I was feeling weak, lightheaded, and my brain wasn't functioning the way it normally should be. I was bone-tired and having a hard time focusing. All the next day, the incessant ringing of my cell phone kept me both awake and gave me at least a glimmer of hope. I heard cars, I yelled out. Nothing. The black flies were more numerous today than yesterday. By shifting my weight with my legs, it allowed me to move my jacket collar up a little higher, somewhat protecting what was left of my bare neck. But the top of my head was still fair game. Hundreds of pinpricks are what they felt like as they feasted on my open cuts. I didn't get used to it, but by the end of the day I was so tired I became numb to it. As bad as the flies and mosquitoes were in the day, I knew as soon as the sun went down the onslaught would begin again, and I no longer had the energy to fight them off. I was coming up on my 3rd night. At this point I just wanted to cry, except I didn't have enough moisture in me for tears. That's when I made a decision, be it right or wrong, I had to go for broke. Holly was frantic. She had spent the last 24 hours calling everyone she and Steve knew trying to locate him. Parents, friends, coworkers, no one had heard anything from him. Her calls and texts to his cell phone had all gone unanswered, and although she knew he had been mad, no one gets that mad for this long over a pair of $80 boots. Something was definitely wrong. The desk sergeant at the local police precinct wasn't much help at first. When he heard her story, he told Holly it sounded more like a lover's squabble than anything else. He informed her that her husband was probably on his way back home this very moment. How in the hell could he know that? What bullshit? Holly thought to herself. The police officer further let her know in order to file a missing persons report, it had to be after someone was missing for 48 hours. Well, it's been over 48 hours, and if you don't help me, I'll just sit on that bench and wait for your supervisor to get back from lunch. Maybe he'll take me more seriously. The look she gave him was a combination of anger, frustration, and a deep-seated determination that wasn't going to go away. "Kenny," the sergeant yelled to a guy in a sports shirt sitting at a desk not more than 20 feet away. "I need you to take this lady's statement and help her any way you can." Holly's eyes thanked him as Detective Kenny Peterson took her back to his desk. Holly spent the next hour going over every detail of Steve's disappearance. She had the make of his car, license plate number, a recent picture of Steve he could keep, and his cell phone number. "Office McGuire's probably right. I can't imagine your husband staying away this long over what you told me. He's probably just letting you stew a bit, knowing that when he does come home you'll be so happy to see him you'll forget all about what the two of you were arguing about. I'd buy that if it weren't for the fact that he doesn't have his wallet and no one we know has either seen or heard from him. Officer Peterson." Holly had read his full name off the nameplate on his desk. "Steve hasn't missed a day of work in 3 years, and when he did, he was almost on his deathbed. Even then, he called into work. He didn't call in Wednesday or Thursday, and they too are concerned about him. It's not like him. He has his cell phone with him, right?" Holly nodded yes. "Unless he was so pissed off at you that he turned it off, we can triangulate through the local cell towers and get his approximate location." "You can do that?" "Not me, but your cell phone provider can." For the first time that day, Holly felt hopeful. "I didn't have a knife with me or anything else that could cut through the seatbelt. Even if I did, I don't think I had the strength to hold the knife or the energy to use it. All I had to do was reach around and push down on the seatbelt release." Sounds so simple, but there were two huge problems, neither of which would make it an easy task. First of all, my right arm was busted up and basically useless, so I would have to make use of my left hand to accomplish it. At least I'd find out shortly if it was dislocated or actually broken. Second, my left arm had been numb for the last 24 hours. When I started moving it across the front of my body, it came back alive, sending a jolt of pain down the whole arm, letting me know it hadn't healed itself yet. With it pressed tightly against my body, I slowly inched it across my chest, trying to use only the lower portion of my arm, keeping my shoulder as motionless as possible. I still didn't know if it was broken, but the pain shooting down my arm made me have to stop and rest every couple of seconds. "I have to do this," I kept telling myself, "or one of these days they'll find me dead in this wreck." I cried, cursing myself and everyone else I could think of. I'd never been in this much pain. I had no choice anymore. I had to succeed. I was about halfway there when I got a stupid idea. I decided to grab my jacket sleeve with my teeth and pull it to the right. It was already getting dark, and I sure as hell didn't want to spend another night as some bug's dinner. I know someone had to have heard that scream or the sobbing that followed. My teeth released the jacket sleeve. My arm dropped onto my lap, and I sat there quivering, waiting for the pain to stop, almost afraid to even breathe. My arm hung there. Tears dripped down my cheeks. I didn't have anything left. I couldn't take any more pain. I think I had finally reached my limit. No water, no sleep, no food. And now I realized I had no usable arms to get me out of this. My legs were starting to cramp up no matter what I did, and for the first time I thought about the what if, and that wasn't an option I wanted to think about. Holly was the one who initiated the call to Verizon Wireless. When Detective Peterson realized they were starting to give her a hard time, he quickly took over. "Miss, this is Police Detective Ken Peterson. We are trying to locate a missing person and need your assistance. Is there going to be a problem?" Ken was switched to the supervisor on duty. While Ken was giving and getting details from the supervisor, Holly, though how wonderful computers are. How anything got done without them, she didn't have a clue. Just so they could find Steve. She silently prayed that Steve's cell phone was on and was still charged up. His account showed no activity for the last couple of days, so it didn't take more than 10 to 15 minutes to get everything they needed. When the detective got Steve's approximate location, he pulled out a city street map. There's really nothing there, he said, scratching his head. David, he called out to another police officer 2 desks over. You got your iPad with you today? He asked. David smiled. My wife wanted it, but I told her I needed it today. All she ever uses it for is playing games and reading her ebooks. Like you use it for important police business? They both laughed. Bring up Google Earth on it for me, will you? Kenny gave David the coordinates that Verizon had given to him. It took a minute or 2 to zoom way in. The location given showed no houses, restaurants, or even a street sign. It was a strip of land between Lake Grover and Lake Harmony. Maybe he lost his phone, Kenny said out loud. Or maybe he's doing some night fishing, David added. Steve doesn't fish. This place is only a couple of miles from where we live. I wonder if his phone is moving. Maybe he's on his way home. Holly was now getting excited. Kenny made a quick call back to Verizon to confirm Steve's location again. Nope. It's still in the same place, it hasn't moved. Well, I'm heading over there, Holly said, standing up and grabbing for her jacket. I'm coming with you, Kenny quickly responded, reaching into his bottom desk drawer, pulling out a 2-foot-long mag light. It's going to be pretty dark out there. We'll need a couple of these to really see anything. Kenny wasn't feeling too good about what they might find. He knew the general area, and besides a few cabins, there wasn't much out that way. The road was narrow and the ditches deep, especially down by the bridge. He wanted to make sure if they found something ugly, Holly wouldn't be alone. Last chance, I thought to myself, coming up with my second and probably final plan. Even though the seatbelt release was just under my right arm, my damaged fingers never would have been able to push it down far enough to open it. Maybe, just maybe, I could use my elbow to push down on the release button. It was worth a try, even though that wouldn't completely solve all my problems. I would still have to find a way to crawl out. At least I would be free and could get something to drink. I took a deep breath and started pumping my legs to get the blood flowing. It's now or never, I whispered out loud, psyching myself up for the task at hand. With both of my feet planted, I pushed with all my strength, driving my upper body deeper into the seat, giving the shoulder harness just enough slack to pull my right arm out from under it. Ignoring the screaming pain shooting down my arm and supporting my right arm with my left, I slowly inched it lower. Pain, that's all I felt, but I kept moving. There was no way in hell I was going to end up dying for those damn $80 boots. I was getting my ass out of here. Sitting upright in my seat, my upper right arm wasn't long enough. I was going to have to somehow move my upper body out of the strap and push it as far to the right as I could. Time-wise, how long it took me, I haven't a clue. I think I lost a couple of pounds of sweat in the process, and not because of the heat. Pushing and pulling, I managed to move the shoulder strap just past the center of my chest, just enough so I could move almost freely. The bugs were back. I did my best to ignore them. I started to slowly inch down until I felt the lap belt and shoulder harness connection with my right elbow. Thank God. My car was an older model and the release button was an out tie instead of an innie. Tears were streaming down my cheeks as my elbow came in contact with that fucking red button. I had to stop, take a short break, let the pain subside a little, and get myself mentally ready. It was all or nothing. There were no options left. I would have to use my left arm to support the lower part of my right arm while using my full upper body strength to push my right elbow into that release button. I tried to think about how much force it normally took to open it, but even with all my weight resting on it, I knew it wouldn't be easy. I thought about counting to 3 but said, fuck it, and gave it everything I had in me. It opened. Holy fuck, it opened. And if I thought I was in pain before, what I was in now can only be described as sheer hell. But when I heard the sweet click of the seatbelt release, I rejoiced through the pain. I smiled, feeling the seatbelt and shoulder harness loosen around my body. What I hadn't taken into account was what was going to happen when the full weight of my body was released. My knee and foot, which I had been using to brace myself, slipped off the dashboard and the steering wheel. I fell head first into the water on the other side of the car. Your first instinct when you're falling is to put your arms out to break your fall. I started to do just that, but thankfully my brain kicked in and stopped me at the last second. Even though I tried to pull my arms in tight to my chest, the full weight of my upper body came crashing down on them. For the third or fourth time since this ordeal began, I passed out. Thankfully, I was lucky enough to do it with my head above the rank water sitting on the bottom of the car, or I probably would have drowned. I don't know if I screamed, cried out, or just wept before passing out. Anyway, it didn't make much difference because no one heard me. At least for a little while I got to feel nothing until I woke up. I was free, but the drop had done even more damage, if that was possible. My right arm was at an angle it shouldn't have been, and the heat it was giving off told me I was bleeding again. I just couldn't fucking win. I was in a weird position with my feet above my body. I needed to somehow get them under me, but first I needed some liquid. Thank God. It was dark, so I couldn't see what I was about to do. I closed my eyes and lowered my face into the still pool of cool water. Parched, I stuck my tongue in first, getting it wet. No cold beer ever tasted this good. I fought the urge to gulp and just lapped at it until my mouth started to recover some of its feeling. It didn't matter that my first swallow burned my throat. The only thing I thankfully tasted was cool liquid. 3 more mouthfuls and I started to feel almost human again. Life may not have been good yet, but I was still alive. It took everything I had left in me to achieve my final task. I gritted my teeth and rolled my upper body to the left. I think I was finally getting numb to the pain because though it still hurt, especially my left shoulder, I was able to roll onto my back without passing out from the pain. Detective Peterson and Holly were making their way up the road, looking on the iPad at where Steve's cell phone should be. He wouldn't have gotten mad and tossed it out the window, would he? Kenny asked, hoping against hope that wasn't the case. Steve waited years to get that iPhone. He'd throw me out the window before he'd toss out his precious phone, especially since he didn't buy the insurance policy on it. How much further? Only about 2 more miles, Kenny said, looking at the iPad Holly had resting on her lap. It was dark with only a sliver of the moon visible. This isn't going to be easy, Kenny thought to himself, looking out the car window. When they got within a half mile of the bridge, Kenny started to slow down. There was no traffic and it was blackout even with his high beams on. At about a quarter of a mile from the bridge he stopped. You drive and I'll walk in front of the car to see if I can see anything. Go slow. Keep the high beams on, even if another car comes down the road. Step by step, Kenny walked on the right side of the road, shining his flashlight onto the road and down into the ditch. They were almost to the bridge when he stopped and knelt down. Broken glass, rust, and bits of paint. What color is Steve's car? He yelled back to Holly. Dark blue. Why? Did you find something? Holly immediately stopped the car, got out, and ran up to where the detective was kneeling. Something happened here. Looks like a broken headlight and maybe some paint from a car. He picked up the white and dark blue paint chips, examining them. He shined the light into the ditch. Steve, can you hear me? Holly yelled out twice, but got no response. Maybe he's hurt and can't answer. Kenny went to the edge of the road and shined the light into the ditch, then started moving the beam of light further out. The underbrush was tall and rugged. Kenny couldn't make out any details, much less a car. He walked a little further up towards the bridge, all the time shining the light past the ditch, looking for anything that seemed out of place. We're going to need help and a lot more light than what I've got here, he said, looking at his watch. He pulled out his cell phone. It was dead quiet except for the sounds of the night. He punched in a number and listened. Holly started to ask what he was doing. Kenny told her to be quiet and listen. They both moved to the edge of the road as he hit redial. Kenny's hearing wasn't as good as it once was, but Holly was sure she heard something. I heard something. Steve, can you hear me? Holly yelled again. Holly, be quiet, he said, handing her his phone. Hit redial when I tell you, and stay off the road. We don't need another accident. The ditch was about 5 feet deep and almost 8 feet wide. Beyond that, the land sloped down rapidly, probably all the way down to the creek. If he was down there, it wouldn't be good. Kenny waded through the knee-deep water and muck. Making his way across to the other side of the ditch, he kicked up a million bugs in his wake. When he started walking down the ravine, he yelled back up to Holly, "Hit redial." He stood there motionless, not even breathing. At first, all he heard was his heart beating. Then he heard it. It was faint and further over towards the bridge. Then he saw it. It was a path of broken brush leading down towards the creek. Did you find anything? Holly yelled down to him. He didn't answer her. Detective, did you find him? Kenny was listening as hard as he could. Just keep hitting redial until I tell you to stop, he yelled back. He followed the sound, continuing his walk down the path of destruction, shaking his head. Broken brush, a busted window. Finally, Kenny stopped and shined the light down the path. Shit! Moving faster, he made it down to the shoreline. It was dark and quiet. He made his way to the front of the car, anxiously trying to see through the windshield, but couldn't because of the fractured glass. Climbing up on the car, he shined the light through the missing driver's window. He saw a crumpled body on the other side with two eyes staring up at him. There was no movement. Damn! The bastard didn't make it, Kenny said out loud to himself in disgust. Then Steve blinked. Kenny kept yelling, "Call 911, call 911. All the way back up the hill. Call 911. Tell them you need a rescue squad and an ambulance." Holly was crying and screaming something. When Kenny made it across to the other side of the ditch and back up to the road, he grabbed the phone from her hands. "I need a fire rescue squad and an ambulance 4 miles out on Highway 27, right away. It's where Shady Creek meets Lake Harmony and Lake Grover by the Matthews Bridge. Tell them there is a car all the way down in the ravine resting on its side. The man inside is alive, but unresponsive. They may need a chopper." With my last bit of strength, I had gotten myself onto my back. I saw the flash of light for only a split second. Just figured my mind was playing tricks on me again. "I need to rest now," I said, closing my eyes. I was lying in the cool water, but it didn't matter anymore. I had nothing left in me. I saw my beautiful wife on the inside of my eyelids. "I'm sorry," I said for the last time before my body finally gave up. Steve's body had gone far beyond what it was capable of enduring. It finally shut down and was in what you might call a safe mode. He never heard the commotion that was all about him for 30 minutes. People were everywhere, shouting, screaming orders as metal was cut and injections given. Updates were relayed to Holly. Kenny tried to keep her busy so she wouldn't go charging down that hill. There were a dozen professionals down there already attending to Steve's every need, and they didn't need a frantic wife hovering over them while they were trying to do their jobs. "Holly, get in the car," Kenny demanded, pulling on her arm. "They're taking him to Mercy Medical. If we leave now and if we hurry, we'll get there about the same time." "I want to go with him," Holly said, pulling away. "Maybe you don't understand. There isn't going to be any room," he said, pointing to the helicopter that was getting ready to land. "I want to see him." "You'll see him when we get there. Please, Holly, just get in the car. People are assholes." Kenny's police cruiser was flying down the road, lights flashing, sirens wailing, and still people weren't moving out of the way. Holly was going nuts, swearing at the drivers. Kenny was glad the windows were up and the doors locked, or she probably would have bolted out of the car and taken a few of those drivers down. The helicopter carrying Steve beat them to the hospital, but not by much. As soon as they pulled up to the emergency room doors, Holly jumped out of the car and ran towards the crowded emergency room. Kenny didn't have the heart to tell her she probably wouldn't be able to see Steve yet. He figured he'd let the doctors be the bad guys for a change. His job had been to get her here in one piece. "Mrs. Moore, your husband is already in surgery," Holly was told by a man in green scrubs. "He's lost a lot of blood. Both of his arms need to be worked on, and by the looks of his head injuries, your husband probably sustained a concussion. That and whatever else won't be known until the x-rays are reviewed. Considering what he went through, he's lucky to be alive. You can see him when they take him to recovery." "How long will that be?" "My best guess would be about 5 to 6 hours. Why don't you relax in the waiting room? The CAF Eteria is open if you're interested." Kenny looked at the doctor and then at Holly. He knew she wasn't going anywhere. I was back in our apartment. Holly was there fixing us dinner, telling me about something funny she'd heard at work. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a half-full Corona in front of me just watching her. Everything was blurry. Nothing was in focus except Holly and me. Was I dead? Was this some kind of dream? Did the last 3 days really happen? I looked at my right arm. It was no longer broken, and surprisingly it showed no sign that it had ever been. I listened to her go on and on. Even though she wasn't perfect, I loved that woman with all my heart. I was going to tell her just how much, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. I couldn't talk. I tried to stand, my legs wouldn't work, and when I tried to push myself up by my hands, they wouldn't function either. Holly just kept going on and on, smiling and laughing as I started thrashing about, finally falling onto my back on the kitchen floor. My heart beat wildly. "Not again," went through my mind. "Steve, what's the matter?" Holly asked, but I couldn't reply. I knew what I wanted to say, only I couldn't talk. The only thing I could do was let my eyes talk to her. "Don't try to talk. You just came out of surgery and your throat is going to be pretty sore for a couple of days. You need rest, we can talk later." She smiled. I was alive. Then I faded away again. This going in and out of consciousness was getting to be a real drag. At least there were no nasty, flesh-eating insects to contend with this time around. The next time I woke up, it was dark. For a split second, I got worried I was back in my car. The lights in the hall put my mind at ease. A cast on my right arm and a brace on my left shoulder told me I wasn't getting out of here just yet. I had some discomfort, especially when I tried to sit up, but it was nothing like I'd experienced over the last 3 days. 20 minutes later, a nurse came in to check my vitals and give me a pill. "Can you tell me what time it is?" "It's just after 3 in the morning. If you're wondering, your wife left around 11:30. I told her to go home and get some sleep and I'd take good care of you." She was looking a little frayed around the edges. It wasn't going to do either of you any good in the condition she was in. She is more than a little afraid you're still angry with her about something. She just kept telling you over and over again how sorry she was. Whatever she did, I think I'd let her off the hook, at least for now. The nurse smiled and told me to get some rest because I'd probably have lots of visitors in the morning. I didn't have much of a chance to even respond before my eyelids became heavy, and I was again looking at my wife's face on the inside. The first 24 hours after they pulled my ass out of my car, I slept probably 20 of them. I ate some, and between the IV in my arm and the liquids I drank, my body was recovering nicely. I must have peed a gallon that first time. The doctor told me I would be out of commission for probably 6 weeks and would need physical therapy after that. My boss was great about it. He told me not to worry about my job, to just get well. I would be on disability after my 10 sick days and 2 weeks of vacation ran out. Financially, we'd just make it. Throughout the day, I had more than my share of well-wishing visitors. Holly was there with smiles and kisses, tons and tons of kisses. Even though she put up a good front, her eyes told a different story. I was glad to see the last of my visitors leave. Holly and I needed some time alone. It was close to 7 o'clock. Dinner was over, what there was of it. My parents had left, and for once we were alone. My night nurse came in and, after checking my vitals, put a pill down on the table next to my bed. "Take this if and when your wife leaves," she smiled, looking over at Holly. Bending down, she again whispered, "Remember what I told you." With that said, and with a smile, she was gone. Holly was sitting on the edge of my bed and looked like she wanted to say something but was struggling with herself. I did what I was asked to do. "I'm sorry I got angry about the boots. It was a dumb thing to argue about," I said, breaking the ice. "If you still want them," is all I got out before the dam opened up and the tears started flowing. She was sitting in the chair, which she had pulled up so close it was touching my bed. She pressed her face against mine, crying and saying something I couldn't understand. Even when she finally sat up, she still couldn't get it out of her. "Holly, I love you. This isn't the first disagreement or fight we have had, or the last we will ever have, but I can guarantee you this. Next time I'm not walking out." She kept on crying. I held her, stroked her hair with the cast on my one good arm, and decided to wait until she was done. "You could have died. I don't know what I would have done without you. You can't imagine how I felt when you didn't come back, and over the next couple of days I don't think I slept a wink. I don't know what I would have done if you died. It would have been my fault. Holly, the accident wasn't your fault or mine. The guy that hit me was probably drunk and maybe still doesn't even remember hitting me. All I know is that I am lucky to have survived and lucky to still have you." We took another break as the floodgates opened up once again. We talked until almost 11. There was no way she was leaving, and as much as I would have liked her in bed with me, that wasn't happening. I took the pill. She slept in the recliner chair next to my bed with her hand nesting in mine. We were together again. The next 6 weeks, especially the first 2, were tough. Holly was back at work, and through my insurance I got a day nurse. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is to have someone wipe your butt? Having Holly do it was one thing, but a guy day nurse? Well, I was praying from day 1 to heal fast and send him packing. My list of injuries: a concussion, 2 cracked ribs, a compound fracture of my right arm, and a couple of hairline fractures on my left shoulder. And yes, it was dislocated, numerous cuts, scrapes, and bruises, and a million insect bites on my head and neck. The first couple of days I thought I'd go nuts, they itched so badly, even with the lotion they put on. Holly would rub them but refused to scratch them. She took a million pictures, saying the next time we argued we could look at them, and thank God we were given another chance. The next big problem came when I had to settle up with my auto insurance company. They were giving me only market value, not replacement value, on my car. The bastards, you never win with them. I finally found another used car we could afford without breaking the bank. After test driving it, I took my right elbow and attempted to release the seatbelt. It had an innie release button. Look, I like the car, but I need you to either replace that release button or attach something to the top of it so I can use my elbow to open it. But honey, isn't your right hand healed up enough that you can use your fingers again? My wife questioned me, not understanding why I was making such a big deal out of this. No one could understand unless they'd gone through what I had. I was going to make damn sure that I could open up that seatbelt without using my fingers. There was no way in hell I would be a bug's dinner ever again. Not if I could help it. And there was no way I was ever again going to be left helpless and hanging. Not in this lifetime. And those damn $80 boots? Well, they were gone when I got home. I thought about asking Holly about them a number of times. But what's that saying? Let sleeping dogs lie? Now when we go to the mall and we pass by a shoe store, Holly holds my hand a little tighter and picks up her pace. Is she cured? Not a chance. One of these days she'll bring home something again and ask if she can keep it. Hopefully it'll be our baby, because with the amount of unprotected sex we'd had over the last couple of months, it was just a matter of time she was put in the motherly way. I only hope it's not a girl. I don't think I could live in the same house with 2 shopaholics.